So I'm back with another movie review, and this movie review I've wanted to make for a while now. Okay, the Spider-Man movie review. This movie was hilarious. It was good. It was sad. It was good. It was adventurous. It had everything. Like it had, well, except for horror. Y'all know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess like shark movies, and technically Jurassic Park is like horror, but like horror like possession, no sir, no ma'am, no. Anyway, so it had a little bit of everything, like the drama, adventure, romance. It was sad, it was funny, it was happy. Ooh, it had everything. And so I was like, this was a good movie. Now there are people pointing out a few minor like plot holes, I feel like, and I kind of had to admit, okay, yeah, you're right about that, but overall I really enjoyed this movie. As a matter of fact, I want to watch it again. Just thinking about it, I want to watch it again anyways. So of course, it picks up right after the whole Mysterio thing. And I was telling my brother, I was like, it was very sore loser-ish of Mysterio to be like, Spider-Man did this to me. His secret identity is Peter Parker. I was like, so you really gonna do him like that? I was like, that's very sore loser-ish. You're a grown man. He's a child. Get over yourself. I was like, wow, so he really just couldn't like lose and be defeated. No, he had to bring him down with him. I was like, wow. They're over here flashing pictures all in his face, harassing his mom and his girlfriend and his best friend. I was like, here you go. You got to deal with it. And then he's getting hounded by the lawyers and whatnot. And I was so happy to see the one and only Matt Murdock from the Daredevil series. Okay, I watched all 3 seasons. Now I cried in between them because they had some sad stuff happening in there. There was some dark stuff going on in there. And like I said, I was very upset. But oh my goodness, it was good. Seeing him in that movie, I was like, that's right, Matt Murdock. The only thing I hated about it is that he wasn't in there for longer. I wanted him to be in there, like in there. You know what I'm saying? But I guess they didn't want him to have that kind of role in the Spider-Man movie. But like I said, the only thing I didn't like was him not being like in there longer, basically. Like I was just so excited and happy to see him in there as his lawyer or whatever. Now, they presented some good, like, let's be honest, all of them should have been in prison. Because like they said, Spider-Man was a vigilante. His mother, child endangerment. Ned, accomplice. Well, his girlfriend, accomplice too. But all of them should have been in prison, really, when you think about it. And all they did was yada, 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 Matthew Murdock, yada, 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 a heck of a good lawyer, yada, 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 which he is. He's a great lawyer, don't get me wrong. But the charges that they were facing with concrete evidence and proof, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff, like a lot of evidence he could really like put forward to be like, I was not the one that killed him. Okay, like he was in a losing battle, but like I said, they for sure yada yada yada. He had one heck of a good lawyer. That's how he got out of it. Yada yada yada, out of that situation. But, it wouldn't be the Spider-Man movie if he didn't get out of trouble, right? Right. They wouldn't be able to continue. So anyways, he gets out of trouble. They gotta, like, sort of, like, hide, I guess. Like, because, like, it's just, they got so much going on. So he goes to, Doctor Strange so that he could get this guy to, like, basically erase everybody's memories. So that, like, nobody will know that he's Spider-Man and that everything can go back to normal. Now, so this is where, like I say, point number 1 that I want to make. Now, wouldn't Doctor Strange and all of his intelligence have figured, okay, well, if we're going to do something that's going to, like, make everybody forget that you're Spider-Man, you would think he would be the first one to be like, oh, that's right, maybe he would want his mom, his girlfriend, and his best friend, at least those 3 people, right? And maybe the Avengers, but just those 3 people, mostly, to remember, because they're important people in his life. No, he was like, wipe everybody. Like, he didn't think, like, the kid would maybe want them to know. So it creates the problem of, oops, I interrupted your little spell. And let's not even get like on the whole soapbox of this being an actual wizard performing witchcraft. We're not gonna jump on that soapbox. Although, so we're not gonna talk about how they could have avoided this whole scenario if he would have, like I said, been mindful of the fact that, oh, maybe he wants like the 3 people that's closest in his life to remember, right? No. He doesn't even consider that. Or maybe he did, but he just didn't care. Because he seems like the type of person that just doesn't care. And we'll get to that more later, like I said. Him not being mindful of that opened the problem of being in the middle of what was going on, and then oops, you changed it up too much and talking about some wait, but this person has to remember, but wait, oh, but what about happy, oh, but this and that, and then bam, they didn't mess up the whole fabric of space-time and physics and everything else because these two dum-dums want to, mess stuff up and change stuff at the last minute. They couldn't sit down and be like, okay, so are you sure you want everybody to not, to not remember? You sure ain't got some, no. Anyways, broke the whole fabric of time into a billion pieces. And he's like, great job. Look at what you've done. Now we've got problems on our hands. And then all kinds of like, villains from like the other Spider-Man movies start coming in. That fight scene with him on the bridge, with Doc Ock, that was phenomenal. Let me just put it that way. He was like, hello, Peter. I'm just like, oh God, here we go again. And this is not like the Doc Ock before he was like kind of losing it. This is the Doc Ock like post he done lost it and he hates Spider-Man and he's like out to kill him. And at first, I thought he had Peter whenever he like grabbed him and he had that little long needle and he like poked him, but he didn't poke him because the suit like protected him. And then he like gonna get the little nanobots and he was like, nanotechnology. And he was like, haha, joke's on you, now I control your stuff. And he was like, no. And then he brought him back to like, the little underground basement sanctum that, Strange had. And so he was already collecting, other people. And they were wrong for that jump scare. That jump scare with what's his name? With, Lizard. Yeah, you're trifling for that. That scared me. I screamed. I startled my dog because of that jump scare. I hope y'all are happy. Anyways, so then Doctor Strange is like, I'm gonna press this button and they're gonna all go back to where they were and they're gonna die, basically. That's basically what it said. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Like some of them were like about to die before like we like broke the fabric of time. Before we broke the fabric of time. That should all be put on him because he was the adult in the situation, but put some on Peter too, because like I said, they should have thought about this beforehand. He should have been thinking about that beforehand. Before they broke the fabric of time and brought them in. And he's talking about all they have to do is press this button and they're going to go back to the realities and they're going to die. And he was like, Doctor Strange, you can't do that. And he's like, yes, I can. Like, they're bad guys. Like, why wouldn't I? Like, he didn't even give it a second thought. Again, like, he was so compassionless. I was like, are we sure he didn't get swapped with the evil Doctor Strange whenever they broke the fabric of time? Like, anyways, so he was like, you can't do that. Like, he was like, have a heartstring. And he was like, they're bad guys. That's all I need to know. They're going back. They don't need to be here. They weren't supposed to be here. They're going back to their timeline. He was like, no. And they start fighting. That fight was hilarious, by the way. He's doing the whole like breaking and bending reality. And I'm like, please stop it. Like, you're getting on my nerves. And he actually bested Doctor Strange. Like, I didn't actually think he was going to do it. Like, I actually thought he was going to lose that battle. But he bested Doctor Strange. I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then he got back and he was like, okay, Ned, MJ, I'm gonna need your help. And he was trying to like fix these guys. It was just, I don't know, it's funny. It's something about fixing them like they're broken robots or like broken action figures or something like that. And they were like, we don't want to be fixed. We don't want to be fixed. And I'm like, what if they don't want to be fixed? And he was like, no, I'm gonna help you guys. And his mother was in on it. His mother was like, we gotta do the right thing. And she used the iconic line, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to do the right thing, Peter. And he was like, okay. So then he's like, took them to the lab and he's like doing all this kind of stuff. Cause of course, Peter Parker, he's a man of science. He's a man of science. So he goes and he does some things and he gets Dr. Octavius's mind finally back on track. And then he was like, thank you, Peter. I've never been better my entire life. And I was like, I hope he's not screwing with us. And then he starts helping him because he's also a man of science and don't forget. And then they're like doing, science stuff to like help the others. They put like some sort of little pack on Electro and he's like, I don't like how this feels. Like, ugh, like, and then Jamie Foxx was hilarious. I'm sorry, he just was. That was hilarious. Him as Electro was it's just hilarious. And him in this movie was just hilarious. Anyways, and then freaking the Green Goblin, he coming up there like, oh, the voices in my head. Like, you know how he does. That actor, I forgot, I don't know what his name was. He was so good. Like, oh my God, he embodied that character so well. Like, he was like, the voices in my head. And I was like, well, I guess he wants help too now. Like, he's trying his best to fight the voices in his head. Like, help him, please. Hurry before he jumps off the deep end again. Like, thank goodness he's finally in control. Like, the him that's the sane is in the driver's seat, and Goblin is taking the back seat for now. But I felt like he was fighting, and so they're all sitting in like the room, and then I feel like he was just tricking them the entire time. He was like, you really think I would let you and Norman, that idiot, take me out? And I was like, oh great. So he was in the driver's seat the entire time. He was just playing that basically. And then starts fighting Peter. He's throwing Peter through the roof, throwing him on the floor, throwing him through floors. I'm like, this child should have broken bones. He should really be dead. Like, I get it. He's he's got superpowers, super endurance, super strength, but he should be broken. Like, literally. Throwing him through stuff. Dr. Octavius, I was like, where's Dr. Octavius? He's out. I knew he's out there, but I guess he felt like he had to hide because he was like a guy walking around with like, extra metal limbs. They're going to automatically see you as a villain. Like, you got to go into hiding, man. And then J. Jonah Jameson not making it any better. I mean, J. Jonah drug he's good for, of course, dragging Spider-Man, but it was like, it went from like, oh, haha, he's dragging Spider-Man's name through the mud, to like, shut up and just go somewhere. Like, go somewhere, because the kid just lost his Aunt May, and you're making it worse. Like, and then that scene where he was like, May, don't do this to me, Aunt May. And she was just like, ugh. And I was like, why y'all have to do this to me? Like, I didn't sign up to cry today, okay? I didn't sign up to get my heart broken. I didn't sign up for this. And he was like, don't do this to me, Aunt May. And then Happy came just in time to help him get away from the police. And I was like, dang. And he was like sitting on the rooftop, like rocking his stuff. And I was like, y'all got this boy in the fetal position. Look at what you done to him. And then freaking Ned and MJ was like, how do we find, like, because they were keeping track of him whenever he went to go and get, Electro, and then when he ran into Sandman. And they're like, oh God, we lost him. We lost contact with him. What do we do? And then Ned has the little thing on his hand that I think he got from Doctor Strange. And then he's talking about some, I wish I knew where Peter was. And then he creates a little portal, and then you see a Spider-Man. Notice what I did there. A Spider-Man down an alley. And he's like, Peter! And then this man turns around like, and then like jumps to the portal, and then they immediately realize that it's not their Peter because he's too tall. And like, wait a minute, who are you? And he was like, you called my name. And they were like, take off that mask. Who do you think you are? And he like takes off the mask, and he's like, you literally yelled Peter. And of course, it's Andrew Garfield. It's Andrew Garfield talking about you called my name. That's why I came in here. And I'm like, bro, why would you? Even if they did, why would you go into some stranger's house who you know nothing about? Like, why would you do that? It was just hilarious to me that, like, his justification for putting himself in that situation was, you called my name, like, why wouldn't I come here? And he was like, they were like, you're not really Spider-Man. He was like, yes, I am. And he, like, jumps and, like, puts his hand on the roof. And he's, like, climbing around, like, making spider webs and stuff. And his granny's like, clean up those spider webs, honey. And he's just like, okay, there you go. And so they were like, this can't be happening. And he's like, well, I must be like, this must be like another universe and all this kind of stuff. And then they go, okay, well, we gotta look for the real Peter. Okay, I wish I knew where Peter was. Another Peter. He like comes through, and they're like, now wait a minute. Now just wait a minute. Who you think you're fooling? And they're like looking at each other and like doing all these acrobatics and stuff. That was hilarious. And he was like, oh, I'm Peter Parker from like another universe. And they're like, this is ridiculous. Like, we have to find the actual Peter. And then they find him on the rooftop, and they're like, oh no, what happened? And they're all like, that's very sweet. It was a very sweet scene when they're all like trying to comfort him. And they were like, what happened? And he was like, Aunt May. And they were like, dang. And then they start like talking to him because he's like the little brother in this scenario, right? It's kind of like he's a little brother. Andrew Garland's Spider-Man is like, I guess, like the big brother, and then Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is like the father or like the eldest brother. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, listen, I know you want to kill him, but that's not how this works. Like, you know, that's not how, you know, she would want you. That's not what she would want you to do. And they were just like talking about the things that happened. He was like, listen, there was a guy, I let him go, and he killed Uncle Ben. And then I went to go after him to kill him. And when he did die, I didn't feel any better. Like, it didn't change anything. It didn't bring my Uncle Ben back. It didn't change how I felt, you know? And then, you know, other Spider-Man was like, yes, and, you know, Gwen passed away, and I was like, and oh my God, like, that movie scene still haunts me to this day, y'all. Like, watching him reach for her and her head hitting the ground, like that haunts me to this day. But anyways, they were like, you can't do this, like, you cannot do that. He was like, well, what are we gonna do? He was like, well, we gotta pick up where we left off. We gotta stop them. We gotta help them, whether or not they want to be helped, and we gotta send them back. And so they went back, you know, and they were like doing like, you know, science stuff, because they're all men of science, and they were doing science stuff. And doggone it, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was like, my best friend became my enemy, and I ended up having to kill him, or I almost killed him, and then he almost killed me, and then he died in my arms. And Ned was like, oh my God. And he was like, listen, Peter, I will never like try to kill you. Like, we will be best friends forever. And he was like, what are you talking about? So they're doing like Spider-Man stuff. They're doing like, you know, all this like science stuff. And they're like, bro, we have to make our web like synthetically in the lab. Like, yours comes like naturally. And he was like, yeah, I mean, it's just how it works. And they were like, wow. I kind of felt that scene coming on. I was like, well, wait till they find out that he doesn't have to make his lab in, he doesn't have to make his web in a lab like they do. Like, it just comes naturally, right? They were like, wow, that's pretty cool, dude. Like, we're so jealous. And so they finally get together and they make everything. And so finally they go to, again, they love making these scenes revolve around the Statue of Liberty, but what have you, whatever. So they're all there and they're like waiting for what's about to happen. And doggone it, it's funny to me, that whole scene where Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man were talking to each other, him standing there with like his hand on the bar, it's funny. The whole scene was funny to me. I did nothing but laugh because I think there was like a picture of him. It was like that very same scene that he was in, and it was like a green screen behind him. And he swore up and down that he was like, oh no, that's not me in there. Like, that's not the Spider-Man movie. Like, and I get it. He had to, because they can't be going around telling y'all all their business, like, you know, before the movie comes out. And it's just funny to me because I remember him saying that he wasn't in the movie scene or anything like that. Like, he was denying what people thought. And then when I saw that scene, I was like, that is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But anyways, and then doggone it, Tom Holland comes up there talking about oh, well, I was a part of the Avengers. And then Tobey Maguire was like, that's great. Like, being all supportive and like, you know, and all that kind of stuff. He's like, what is that? And it's just funny because when you really think about it, he did not actually get to that part, I guess, of the timeline in his timeline or whatever. And like, they were like, he didn't even get time to explain to him what, you know, the Avengers were. And I was like, well, dang it, that could have been like a nice little bonding moment for them. And then all the bad guys start to roll in, and they all like, you know, just clashing because they're like, look, we're not used to fighting in a group like this. We're not used to fighting like enemies from different universes. This is a little different for us. And he was like, okay, Spider-Man number 1, Spider-Man number 2. And I'm like, well, technically, whatever, anyways. And so he was like, all right, you go here, you go there. And then they're like working together, and they're like doing better, and they're fighting. And then they just, they had the most trouble with that lizard. And then doggone, and Ned talking about he did something. So all this time, you've been playing with that thing, opening portals left and right. And then the one moment when you needed to close it, you couldn't. And they're up there talking about, she's like, okay, just start from the beginning. No, do it like how you did. No. Come on, Ned, you can do it. And meanwhile, the lizard's just like, oh, hold on. And then when he started running after them, I was like, oh my God, if you don't shut up and close that portal. And they never did. And I was like, oh my God. And then, cause that was a good thing, Spider-Man, like, you know, was like, oh my God, like he's going after them, and like chased after them, chased them all the way into the basement and then out of the basement. And I'm like, the safest place they could have been was in that basement. And then they basically just ran out to where all the unsafety was. And then they're being chased, and then he managed to, like, you know, hold them back while they're like trying to escape. And then of course, freaking Strange, he had to choose the funniest moment to pop up and be like, how dare you do that to me? Like, I was in there. You know how long I was in there? Like, it took me forever to get out of there, like, you know. And then doggone it, the scene where Andrew Spider-Man saved MJ, I was like, whew, I was a little nervous. I didn't think she was gonna make it, because when she fell, Tom Holland's Spider-Man jumped and he was like, I got you, girl. And then freaking Green Goblin, he was like, oof, you know. And then Andrew was like, no, I'm not gonna let this happen again. And then he like jumps and he saves her. I was like, whew, thank goodness. It was like a massive headway. Whew, he saved her. And he was like holding her and he was like crying, because like, he, you know, I think it was like a mixture of him being glad that he could save her with a mixture of him being sad that he couldn't save his, but happy that he could save hers, and like scared because he thought the same thing was gonna happen twice. So she was like, oh, thank you. And he was like, you're welcome. And then they managed to woo-wee. Like he was really gonna kill the Green Goblin for killing his mom. I was like, well, not his mom, but his Aunt May. He was like, and then doggone it, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man stepped in and was looking at him like he didn't, like, it wasn't like a condemnation look or like a reprimandation, but it was like a look like, remember what I just said? Like, you know, you can't do this. Like, this can't be you. And I was like, look at his eyes, man. Like, he's peering into our soul. Like, he is like this is our OG Spider-Man. Like, he was looking at him like I said, it wasn't like a reprimanding look. It was like I'm connecting with you. I'm like, I'm feeling what you're feeling, but I'm telling you can't do this. And I was like, dang, like, you can't do it now. Like, you can't. And then he got stabbed, and I was like, at first I was scared he's gonna die. I was like, no, you got an MJ in the world to go back to. You better not die. After all this stuff, after everything you survived, you better not die. And then finally he's like, ah, and he gets up and stamps him with like the little syringe. At first I thought, I was like, oh God, he actually did kill him. Like, he wasn't going to, but then he changed his mind. But then I was like, oh no, it's a syringe. And it fixed him. And then they were finally able to send them back to their universes. And then I was kind of like, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, fixing them didn't fix the fact that they were about to die, right, where they got plucked out of their timeline and strewn into that timeline, right? So did they actually fix them dying, or just fix them, you know, being evil? Because all I feel like they really did was just like fix them being evil and then put them back in the position to die. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But anyways, correct me if I'm wrong. But then the fabric of time and space and reality was being torn apart, and it started to look like a very horrifying episode of What If. And he was like, see what you've done. I can't hold it together anymore. And he was like, we've got to erase your like, it got to be like, you don't even exist. Like, people won't know that you're Spider-Man. They won't know that you're you. And he was like, well, dang, what about Ned and MJ? And he was like, that's just too bad. And he was like, well, if it'll save everybody. And he just wipes it all. And I was like, dang, so nobody knows that it's him at all. And I was like, that really sucks. And like, I guess it kind of worked out, unfortunately, because it's not like, you know, well, at least if Aunt May was still alive, he would have to, like, I guess, answer to like, oh, Aunt May, it's me. Or like, he would have to try and figure out how to get her to know that she, you know, that they were related. But I was like, dang, like, nobody remembers it at all, for real. Like, even Happy was like, how did you know her? And I was like, okay. I was like, wow, I didn't realize how bad this was really bad. And then kid was only like 18, didn't even get to go to college like how he wanted to. And he literally had to strike out on his own because his only adult figure was gone. And Happy, of course, could have took care of him, but Happy didn't know who he was anymore. And I was like, man, he's really screwed. And he literally had to strike out on his own. They showed him having his own apartment that looked ridiculously similar to the one that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man had when he was with Mary Jane in the first Spider-Man movies. Being Spider-Man, trying to like go back to, where MJ worked and trying to like start somewhere. And I was like, come on, bro. Like, you gotta be like, listen, like, I know you don't know me, but let's just go out on a date. And you already know everything that she likes. Just pop out the date with everything in her favorite color, like her favorite dish. She's gonna be like, oh, how did you know? She's gonna be like, it was just a guess, like, wild guess. Like, you already know, like, and I was like, dang. He's got to start from square one. And it was crazy because people were saying that this is like related to how the movie is literally No Way Home. Like, it's like once it's like this, it's no way to go back, and I was like, dang, like they were serious. Like I didn't know how serious they were about this title. I was like, man, like he really can't go back to the way it was. Like Aunt May's gone. Nobody knows who he is. Outside of him being Spider-Man, I was like, oh my God, like he is really messed up for real. He's only a kid. He's like 18. Like he's out on his own. I was like, oh my God, like, this is horrible. Like, but he was hanging in there, and I was like, and I doubt that there'll be like a 4th installment of that Spider-Man, but well, they still got, Miles Morales, so I'm afraid. I'm gonna be honest with you, because every time I think of Miles Morales, well, first of all, he's not black, he's biracial. Let's just, I'm not being petty, just put that out there. And second of all, every time I think of a colored man, any man of color being Spider-Man, I think of like the Danny Glover or like the Donald Glover stand-up where he was talking about like half of like the people wanted him to be Spider-Man because they're like, yeah, you would fit a good Spider-Man. Like you're skinny, you're tall, you're goofy, like you would make a great Spider-Man. And the other half of the people were like, F you, N-word. And I was like, I just don't want like the hatred to come out of the woodwork for a colored Spider-Man. Like how I was afraid that the hatred would come out of the woodwork whenever they made Sam the new Captain America. I was like, oh God, like the races are gonna come out of the woodwork. Like I was so afraid, like I really was, because they could get real crazy with it. So I was like, I don't think that they should make a live action of a Spider-Man with him because of that. Now I could be wrong, and if somebody wants to risk their safety to do it, then that's between them and their safety. These kinds of things get serious. That's all I have to say. But I can't see them making a Spider-Man with Miles Morales. I don't know like how many they gonna make. I doubt they would make 3 of them, but I could see that happening. Like even if it is dangerous. And I know some of y'all are like, oh, you're being extra. Like, no, I'm not. Okay. Like, there have been people who have literally been ready to kill people over playing movie roles. Like, Anyway, so, like I said, this was a great movie. This was great. Like, I really want to just watch the movie again. Like, it was really great. It was sad, but it was good. It was long, but it was good. Like, so y'all tell me what y'all thought in the comments. Like I said, there was some, like I said, I feel like some plot holes. Maybe not plot holes, but like some questions, But y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments down below.